Okay, this is an exciting afternoon session, and what is standing between afternoon tea and I suppose afternoon tea is just this group here. It's an amazing group of panelists. How about we just do a quick 5-second exercise? All of you stand up because this is just that time of the afternoon where I can see some faces which are probably all smiley faces. Don't you think, guys? Yeah, you guys are all fine to sit here. Just to say, look at the person next to you and say, "You're awesome." All right, that's the way to go. Get some energy in the room. Okay, thank you. Please sit down. Now, who believes, show of hands, who believes that the world has changed? Who believes that the world hasn't changed in the last few years? Oh, well, okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Who believes that the retail landscape has changed? Thank you. Now, if I just reflect on some of the journey that I've been on, the 24 years that I've spent in Australia, working with 16 years with Myer, it's a $3.2 billion retail giant. Obviously, bricks and mortar used to be a destination, how that has changed. Now, where is Amitabh? If I may just, Amitabh, I'm just going to quote you because you spoke about this morning, you spoke about the fact that our region, if I look at this country, this region has had amazing success. However, most of the family-run businesses, how you actually go about with technology savvy. And I suppose my reflection on how it's been, the learnings that I've gone through, 94% of business failures usually happen because of process failures. Okay, so that's my learning. However, true transformation happens because of people. And it's all about education. That's the answer what I was going to. Well, we actually now on an interesting topic. So I've got this amazing group of professionals here. So we give all these fancy names, you know. We've come up with different multi-channel and did we say omni-channel? Now, I'm going to just say, just simplify this and Hari, if I can actually get you to say, what is omnichannel?
So thank you, PK. So if you have to kind of define like a textbook definition of omnichannel, you can pretty much say it's being omnipresent. So what does that mean? So in layman's terms, that's what PK asked me to define. A channel that's present both physically and digitally or virtually. So this means you need to be available for your consumers anytime, anywhere, any place. They should be able to touch and feel you physically. They should be able to touch and feel you online. They should be able to touch and feel you in all other mediums that you can think of. So let me put that in a perspective. In traditional retail, so far, or until few years back, how did the retailers conduct business? You know, they advertised whatever they wanted to sell in a weekend journal, or you went to Gulf News, you picked up a piece of paper, you looked at what is the great deal in Lulu or Jumbo, and you went to the store in order to pick up what you want. So as a traditional retailer, the way you can look at that is your customers reached out to you. They looked at what they want in a print medium, and they came to your store. In the wonderful world of digital, that's not what you do. You reach out to where your customers are. You need to know where they live, what they shop, what their friends do, and what their friends are telling them about what they shopped. And that's the omni-channel. That means basically being present anywhere, everywhere, anytime. So if you need to be present that way, you need to be very clear that it is not a matter of just putting a website and plugging a payment gateway and say, I got a transaction engine going. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more demanding because of the legacy systems, because of the legacy processes for a traditional retailer to go online. This means you need to manage your digital assets very, very carefully. And what are your digital assets? Anything and everything you can touch and feel. It could be a corporate website. It could be your e-commerce transaction site. It could be your social media site, be it a Facebook or Twitter or anything else you want. Be it your mobile site, and more. So you need to make sure that you manage all these digital assets in such a way that your customers can find what they want and how you can serve them better with better deals. It is because of this, your customers are well informed. Even before they walk inside your store, they are extremely well informed. And that's the beauty of today's retail. The customers actually know sometimes more than the retail agents at the store. So you need to make information available, you need to make reviews available, you need to make it more interesting, and you need to be able to present all of that within that few seconds of attention span when people are clicking their way through online.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you. Okay, so we know that we spoke, I suppose, the global, it's a global village. We could be having lunch in Singapore, breakfast in Melbourne, and dinner somewhere else, I suppose. So the way it's changing, the world is, it's become a global village. And equally, the buying behavior has changed. So what you find is that the days have gone where you had to be dressed from head to toe, all coordinated. You could be wearing a $10 t-shirt and a $500 pair of jeans, or $600 pair of shoes you could be wearing and still be looking cool. Sitting in a coffee shop with an iPhone in your hand and ordering. Who has actually ordered through Amazon in the last couple of days, for example? Any show of hands? Or Flipkart. Okay, so the way it's actually, it makes it easier for consumers to buy. And equally, the pace of change, the way technology is changing, at the rapid pace we are changing. So Meyer, this is your area. I suppose if I may just use your strength is in market segmentation and customer insights. How does a retailer position itself as the leading authority in this space?
By following the customer. Customer is a king. We need to understand our customers. We need to have the right technology, the right tools to understand these customers. The most important way is not the tool itself, as the user behind this tool, what magic they can do to improve the branding, what magic they can do to improve the presence, whether online or in the store. There were several questions about the customer journey and the customer centricity. How do we service our customers better? If we understand our customer behavior, how they buy, where they buy from, what are the touch points, we can throw any fancy word for it. Touch points, customer centricity, consumer behavior. At the end of the day, it's understanding your customer, having a smart person who analyzes the data, analyzes the information, and makes the best customer experience possible. That does not only help you sell, it helps you by increasing your average dollars per basket. It helps you by retaining your customers, and repeat customer is the asset that you can always cross-sell and upsell in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, I suppose in the 21st century, what you know is not enough. And Steve, you had some great examples to talk about that. If I may just get you to share equally, if you don't keep reinventing, you disappear. Companies which were in the top 10 in the last 15 years don't exist anymore, some of them. Last 5 years, some of them don't exist. So if I may just get you to just share some of what are the tips, what would a bricks and mortar retailer, or any retailer for that matter, how do you make sure that not only survive but thrive in the 21st century?
Yeah, before I get into actual answer for the question,
Sure.
the two things you just said and put on the slides, there's some food for thought. It's a very deep comment. You said, you don't know what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And that reminds me of 1999 and 2000 year in American history, or Europe, which got caught on later. A lot of retailers actually jumped on board, started selling through Amazon, right? The whole idea, I see at GCC, and it's around that time, mm-hmm. in terms of where the retailers are and where the technology is moving, right? So there's one huge mistake that retailers did at that time that I would like to caution retailers here not to do the same. Okay. So what happened is at that time, instead of really understanding what's e-commerce, all retailers jumped on Amazon. They started retailing through Amazon, not realizing one thing that they now realize, and I would like all of you to realize that, is that yeah, selling through Amazon at no cost is a great idea, or at least sounds great, right? That there's no investment to make and you have e-commerce and you're selling through Amazon. And nothing against Amazon, but certainly looking at it from the branding aspect, if you remember the study, we looked at earlier today from the consulting company, right?
Yes.
He said branding is the most important aspect for women in Dubai. Well, I disagree with him to some extent because it's not just in Dubai. Worldwide, not only for women, but men alike,
Yep.
branding is very important. And if you sell just through a seller aggregation model, without expressing your own branding or without building a customer loyalty longer term, that's not the right way to do it. So should you sell on Amazon? Absolutely, you should for the incremental revenue from the population that you would serve there otherwise.
Sure.
But that shouldn't be the only thing you should do. You should always have your own branded solutions and portals. Coming to the second one, reinvent or disappear, reminds me of Circuit City. How many in this room, let's see hands, how many of you have heard Circuit City? Okay, not a lot, I'm a little bit surprised. Circuit City was, for 15 straight years, the most profitable company on NASDAQ, on the stock exchange, with the dividends they gave for 15 straight years, most profitable. That's a record. No other company has given a dividend at that time for 15 straight years without having even 1 year of losses and no dividends. So such a successful company does not exist today. And what happened, you might ask, right? The same thing. They failed to reinvent themselves when the technology and the retail landscape was changing. So what happened is when the customers were actually wanting to shop online, they didn't really embrace that part very well. So along came Best Buy and along came Amazon, and basically they took away their customers. And today, Circuit City, that mammoth electronics retailer in the US, no longer exists. So there's actually a great book if you would like to read, written by the CEO and co-founder of Circuit City. Actually, his dad founded the company.
Yep.
It's called Good to Great to Gone. And it's a very interesting book. He talks about a lot of failures and critically, not really blaming anybody.
Of course.
But the biggest thing I took away from that book is that that business failed to reinvent themselves when the customer was reinventing and the retail landscape was changing, but they didn't keep up with it. So that's one mistake all of us obviously shouldn't be making, knowing that the retail landscape is changing as fast as it is.
Thank you, Steve. So if I look at, it's no longer, in my view, it's no longer a battle between retailers. No, days are gone where bricks and mortar retailer competing with a bricks and mortar. It's obviously different formats. Specialty stores came along. Then now we've got the whole online thing. But what has been huge eye-opener for me is the whole silo mentality, because people working in silos within organizations. Intent may be the right thing, but they don't actually do what they're meant to do, which is about integration. So I'm going to ask Keith, because you come from this space of supply chain, 20 years with SAP. And so what does this mean for Omnichannel when it comes to fulfillment? Because, what role does supply chain play? We believe that supply chain is not just about logistics and transportation. It's actually the business, in my view. So what is your thoughts?
Okay, so what I think is that basically Omnichannel adds a degree of complexity to the supply chain in that you actually have to supply those channels and they actually interact with the customer in different ways. So it adds a degree of complexity. And traditionally, there's no visibility in your supply chains that we traditionally have. That visibility is improved with track and trace. We've also got the cloud solutions which allow us to collaborate a bit better. Products like Ariba, your online capability will allow us to track and trace and unsign and actually eliminate let's say, the non-visibility of supply chains. When I was a retailer, when I grew up, we used to place our orders normally manually, write a piece of paper, write the quantity down, guess what we wanted to do. Today, the systems help us do that. We pretty much rely on the systems to suggest what we want. We send that off to the supplier, he confirms it back, but we don't have as much as visibility as possible. The cloud will give us that in terms of us as visibility into their systems, what the manufacturing line is doing, where the product is. We'd be able to actually in the future to track that product directly from the actual production line directly into that channel. And that's vitally important. And then the other complexity is about which channel do you serve first. There's another issue that's facing retailers is that obviously there's a functional trust that you've got to maintain in each of those channels. The functional trust and to make sure that you deliver on your promise. Mm-hmm. So supply chain is all about delivering on that promise to your customers. And if you fail on that promise, you can only fail a number of times before that channel becomes irrelevant. So I think that's
So Keith, what role does claims and returns play a big part in Omnichannel? Okay, so I could be sitting in somewhere, like I was on the team of a company called Shui, based on the Zappos model. So we designed the box in such a way that the shoe box was like a beautifully designed with the Shui, SHOOII, branded, and then so a lady sitting there and actually like a pizza delivery man, the box will come. And in front of all her peers, she'll open the box and take the shoe out. And then if she doesn't like it, all she has to do is reverse it and put the box in, and no questions asked. Similar to the Zappos thing. So how big a role does claims and returns play in Omnichannel?
All right, so the first thing, claims and returns, is really a message back from our customers, and really vitally important. So technically listening to those messages and turning those messages into opportunities is really a key principle. So for example, like your story about the box, she was obviously interested. So first of all, my marketing, way we presented it, invoked that interest, but didn't result in a buying transaction.
Yep.
The issue is, why didn't it result in a buying transaction? And understanding from social media or other information why she decided not to actually pick those pair of shoes. And that's vitally important. So in the future, those messages and the ability to consume all that data into systems, we're capable of doing that right now today. We're able to do with our in-memory database is to actually track all those bits of information and come to an understanding of why that customer behaved in that way. And that's really, really important. So it's actually becoming really, really tech savvy in terms of able to serve the customer's needs and wants.
Well, that's a good segue into our mobility king sitting here. I think it'll be if I just take the next slide. If I get you to just talk about, we spoke about in the earlier sessions today, there was a lot of discussions about mobility and how important that is in the Omnichannel. Your thoughts, would love to hear your thoughts on this.
So yes, it's interesting. I think there are figures here which talk about percentages of how many shoppers are spending on mobile phones, how many shoppers expect to shop on mobile phone moving forward, and what the e-commerce stat is. But I think the perspective at which we look at this data is important. So it's not about because there are these trends, so I need to get online or I need to look at Omnichannel. The real question we need to ask is, what is the customer looking for today? Okay? Does he really want to have that experience? And then, do you have that experience? And if you don't, do others have it? And will that mean that the customer migrates to another brand because you don't have it? So it's very important to understand where the customer is now, starting his thought process in terms of him making that decision about investing in a brand, in a franchise, in a product. It doesn't happen in the stores today. You read an AdWords, you read a newspaper article, you read a magazine, or there is a flash that comes somewhere, and that's where the thought process starts. So how do you capture that? In fact, companies like Amazon and Google, we heard Google, in the morning, they're working on predictive analytics. So even before the customer has decided what he wants to purchase, the predictive analytics has started working to identify what decision that customer will make in terms of his purchasing power. So how does that work? What clicks the customer is making? Which website the customer is browsing? Which product has he started looking at on his mobile phones? So these are the information that the customer is capturing, these analytics are capturing and allowing Google and Amazon to do predictive analytics to the extent that by the time the customer has gone through those process, maybe the good or the products have already been allocated and from the distribution center already moved to the shipping locations or to the local stores, predicting that the customer might walk in or the customer might want to collect that particular material, right? So this is how we are seeing mobility transforming the way we do business, at the same time allowing or empowering organizations to start capturing customer thought process much, much before the customer actually transacts inside your store.
Thank you, Zefa. How about we get the audience to ask us some questions? What do you say, guys?
That's good. I just want to add one thing to what you said about mobility, right? Mobility is such a formidable force. It's really changing retail so fast. There are a couple of things I would like to share with the audience here. There's one concept we've seen not only in the US, I think in Europe as well, called showrooming. So what customers do, the concept of showrooming is that customers would go to a store to see a product, check it out, feel it, and it's good. And right then and there, without any shame whatsoever, I would think, say that in a way, pull out and see that product online, that where can I buy it cheaper? A lot of them are actually shameless enough to place the order while in the store, right? So that tells a retailer that, it's not just that, you have to open stores. So that's where we're seeing a lot of convergence as well. So pure play internet retailers like Amazon, they're opening small kiosks in malls and stuff like that. So just to reach closer to the customer so that they're filling that gap, that there is no look and feel or the actual touch aspect. On the other hand, we're seeing a lot of brick and mortar stores opening up online and mobile commerce, right? And that's what every retailer should be doing. And that's how the bricks and clicks will converge. So that's what we're seeing.
And so if I take, just before we go to the audience, if I may just, Maya, please.
I don't think it would be that shameful if the website that they opened is your own store, right?
Exactly.
So the trick is, how can I precisely market the right message to the right customer at the right time? That's what I said about customer centricity. You need to, yes, customers will do the showrooming. The question is, how can I precisely target them at that minute and influence that decision for them to buy my product, whether by, I don't know, any promotional thing, or by, as we hear today from, I think, the folks in Motorola, sales rep walking to them and advising them on the offer. We heard about the case of Best Buy, for example. So I want to comment on one more point that was mentioned. Actually, all three of them. We've talked about customers, we've talked about technology. I think there is a missing component, which is the human element. There is a huge amount of change management that we need to think of as technology companies and the customer and the retailers themselves. Within the company, how can you adapt a new way of selling? You're not only talking about a new supply chain, you're not talking about pricing strategy, marketing strategy. It hits every line of business that you have within your retail business. The question is, how can we as technology companies enable those retailers to do so? And how can we make that change management process seamlessly easy for them? That hits directly their bottom line, that hits directly their time to market, that hits directly their speed. They definitely, for sure, do not want to miss the window of opportunity to procure the right products, merchandise the right products, and put them on their shelves at the right time. So it's a full cycle. That's what I meant by we need to keep an open eye for the customers. One last comment that I have about this same subject is, in reality, we're talking about change. The only constant thing in life is change. Customers did not change. They evolved. That's a human nature. We, as technology companies, we need to innovate, continue innovating, and we ask of our retailers to continue adapting to those innovations to serve their customer the best. I go back to my first statement, which is customer is the king. If we understand that cycle, we'll be doing a lot of money.
Thank you, man. That's very good.
Everybody, the customer, the retailer, and the technology companies.
Keith, anything to add on? Any sort of tip that you would like to add on? You good? Harry?
Yeah. So a couple of points I wanted to highlight is, there is a tendency, at least in the region, while there are several e-tailers have made good strides, there are brick and mortar retailers who are still struggling. And there are a lot of reasons besides the fact that it's a legacy system that they have to deal with. The bigger issue is to take a step back and actually document your processes, document your workflows on how you do in the traditional retail world. If you don't have a handle on it, though people know at the back of their head how to do this, if you don't take the time to document these processes. And then, without doing that, if you're trying to go online, you're asking for trouble. However, please don't think online or m-commerce is just an option. It's a way of life. So your customers, before they come to your store, they are shopping you. After they come to your store, even if they touch and feel for high-end products, there are apps, and there is one launched in Dubai as well, where they can subscribe to the app to get a real-time price quote on every possible store for the same product. So if these things are happening as a brick and mortar retailer, you need to figure out how to enhance the experience to the customer.
Sure.
You are not just selling as a price-based deal. An example, which an e-tailer cannot offer, a retailer can offer, is a click and pick as an option. So you will come up with new processes, new business model, new ways of doing things that didn't exist before. In the case of a click and pick, the customer, because Dubai is pretty much a mall-centric culture, a lot of retailers thought, oh, nobody is going to buy online. Mall is a way of entertainment. People will always come and buy offline. Not true. Last week, there was a press release, even Debenhams has reported about 15% of their orders are from click and pick processes only. So this means you need to allow the customer to sit in his sofa and pre-order something or click and pick and book an order before he comes to the store. When he comes to the store, give him a VIP treatment with a click and pick counter, go there, touch and feel the product, either pre-buy it or just pay it at that time and walk out of the store. So this means you need to have your processes invented that you could have a central warehouse that is taking out or an online store that is taking an order, but how are you going to make sure that the store in a remote corner of UAE can actually be ready to be able to deliver that order?
Sure.
Right? There are a lot of consolidated processes will become distributed. There are a lot of distributed processes that will become consolidated. So there is a way that you need to reinvent. The last but not the least is you can push your imagination to the limit because you are limitless in terms of inventory that you can carry. You are limitless in terms of the borders you want to cross, right? However, when Amazon and everybody else are out there selling, how do you make sure that people are going to wake up and still try to come to your site? That means you need to create some unique, not only deals and offers, but some methodologies by which you can retain that mind share. So one thought, if you want to be at the helm of the affairs, please think about how to classify your products in any combinations so that when people search on Google or Facebook or any place, that you are showing up high in the list. So technically, Google and Facebook are your half-brothers in this business. So given that, one of the things that I've been personally promoting is that a concept called helm. You be at the helm of the affairs. And that means health, education, lifestyle, and mobility. If you can combine your products and offers and services that can fit into one or more of these combinations, there is a real possibility 1 in 5 users are going to find you when they search you.
Thank you. Zip?
Yeah, thank you. No, that's very interesting perspective, right? So let's look at it. One point that he did mention was how do you retain the mind share, and that's very important. So today, in order to differentiate your brand, to differentiate your store, we all run loyalty programs across the retail world. But when do we actually recognize our customer today under the loyalty programs? We recognize the customer at the point of sale. That's where you start capturing the loyalty information in order to either give them points or give them the necessary discount. And when customer is increasingly looking at a unique or a differentiated shopping experience, it makes more sense to bring that loyalty into the front of the store. Start recognizing your customer when he's entering the store. And this is where the trend is actually pointing towards. And today the technologies are able to support that, where you're able to recognize a customer, a loyalty customer, when he's walking into your store. Again, this is important because in omnichannel world, customers are getting used to personalization. Generic messages, generic promotions do not interest them anymore. So if you are walking in, you need to have a personalized attention that drives your shopping behavior, right? To ensure that you're able to deliver this identification of the customer while he's walking into the store or he's approaching your brand is very, very important. And in fact, it's not even personalization, it's actually hyper-personalization. So let's say me and Hari, we walk together into the store. We both are loyalty customers. So it should not happen that the store pushes a 50% discount coupon to him and a 50% discount coupon to me. But when we both walk into the store, Hari loves shopping T-shirts. You wear T-shirts, right? He loves shopping T-shirts, whereas I love shopping for shoes. And when I walk into the store, both of us together, both of us are loyalty customers. He gets a special promotion on T-shirt, whereas I get a special promotion on shoes. That's what we call hyper-personalization.
Thank you.
Right, so this is a very, very important process. Thanks.
How about in the interest of time, just to make sure that we have just the afternoon tea is just being served, but I'll just open up for we'll take up to 3 questions from the audience. Any questions for the group, for the panel? Please, if you could just, sir, you could please walk up to the mic. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Abhijit, and I'm a part of the 7 Seas group. My question is, this thing about mobility came about use of mobile phones. So what is the understanding in the Middle East and North Africa region? What is the usage of mobile phones for purchases? And for browsing, it's there, but for purchases, is there any data that's available that says that, what's the kind of usage that comes about from mobile phones for purchases specifically?
I can, if you meet me right after this meeting, I'll be happy to share with you a site. This was a study done by Google, and the site is actually thinkwithgoogle.com. It's a little bit cryptic to get down to that information, but they had found a few very important statistics. First of all is the mobile penetration in Dubai and in Saudi is the highest in the world, higher even than US or Europe. Very interesting fact. And mobile purchases are still, not as much as they are in Europe or US, but they're catching on really fast. The trend is very, very upward. If you saw the session, some of the sessions earlier today, they were saying that, as much as 70% sales for one of the retailers, I'm forgetting who that was, it's coming from mobile, and only 30% from, from laptops or notebooks and, that kinds. So, there are studies done like that. I'll be happy to share that link with you.
Thank you, Abhijit. Any other question?
Can I answer the
Please,
question
Nahir,
about mobility?
yeah, please.
Well, the question is, what do you need in mobility? Mobility now, everybody has a device. The consumer, the retailer, the employees at the retail outlet, almost everybody. You can have commerce, you can have mobile point of sales, you can have mobile applications that you can merchant your products there, you can advertise your products there. There are technologies in passes, that's passbook, the same way you can do tickets. And in that technology, you even can track the customer before they reach the retail. You can do geo-tracking or geo-fencing for a particular place where you are. The whole idea of mobility is how can we leverage this presence of this lovely device in every person's pocket, or almost. According to Google, I think it was 80% or 82% in between UAE and Saudi. But the question that is to the retailer, what kind of this technology do you want to leverage and what for? Success metrics matters more than the tool that you use. Unless the retailer knows what they want or they have it in that strategy, devices and tools are available by almost everybody. So mobility, do you want to do, there was a question earlier about the queue busting or what do you do if you are crowded. If you have a crowd, you can use mobile device to do queue busting. You have a line of customers waiting in line, how can I service them? And the same application or the same way is done in Apple stores, the reference that was made. Mobile point of sale is a key customer experience, not only to enhance customer in-store experience, but also to help a retailer cross-sell and upsell because the cashier becomes a salesperson, a consultative selling approach at a retail outlet. That adds value to it. You can as well have mobility in customer targeting. As I mentioned, there are different ways to do that. But the most common way to use mobility nowadays is the application. Every retailer would like to have an application in every smartphone that's possible. Now, I beg to differ. I'm personally I'm not a big fan of having so many applications on my phone, so I'd rather to have m-commerce or mobile commerce, in which I have the content of the retailer e-commerce website be repurposed to fit the size of my device. And that technology is available and very commonly used.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, you want
So to answer,
to answer the question? Sorry, any other question, please? Yep.
My name is Kaushal Dayal, part of KPMG's management consulting team. In the multi-channel era, there was, at least in pockets, a discussion around cannibalization between channels. Is that even relevant in the omni-channel era?
See, I don't think it is so much about cannibalization, because what you need to think is it's not one channel versus the other. What the customer is doing, you know, I've done it myself. So let's take Amazon, you know, example again, but in a good way this time instead of the other way. So Amazon doesn't have any grudges against me if they're, you know, listing somewhere. So a customer logs into Amazon.com, adds something to his cart or a wish list on a desktop. At work, maybe he had some free time. Now he's, you know, in traffic, stuck somewhere, bumper-to-bumper traffic. He's like, okay, let's continue where I left off. So he opens his phone, launches the Amazon app. What should ideally happen is where he left off, the product he was looking at should be in his cart and his wish list and accessible on this device now, even though he didn't do it here. So it's one single seamless experience of that particular brand or retailer across all channels. So it's not a question of one channel versus the other, and so cannibalization actually doesn't you know, affect this new retail reality in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
Actually, one channel will feed the other.
Exactly.
Statistically speaking, for every one purchase made on online, it influences 4 times that dollar value on the brick and mortar store. So in reality, the worst that could happen, you have free marketing on your e-commerce website rather than a sales channel.
Thank you.
So I think the important point here is that if it's in a silo, and as we've traditionally been deploying these solutions, then you have the issue that you have cannibalization between the channels.
All right.
okay, just quickly, let me try to attempt to answer both the question. The previous question, there is some data, to be specific on, I think there is some data available in Euromonitor. I think there's a monthly newsletter that comes out of that. About 6 months back, if I'm not mistaken, that about 90% of the online browsing activity happens on a mobile device or a tablet device. However, at least 10% of the transactions are happening out of the mobile devices in UAE. You may want to double check that data. That might have changed since then. And there is a reason why only limited set of transactions are happening on the mobile device, just because of the ease of use. And then there is also the security concerns. So as the Middle East retailers get a little bit more sophisticated in the way they offer these apps and devices, this will get better and better. But that's one perspective to look at it. But the other perspective is, besides looking at this mobile device only for a payment transaction processing, there are several case studies, especially in the m-commerce world, that have been published where people take advantage of somehow targeting your mobile in such a way that they can increase the sales. For example, if I'm not mistaken, Sangeeta Mobiles in Bangalore, there is a case study. They apparently increased their sales by 20 or 30% just by providing you a Wi-Fi access to your mobile device when you walk into the mall somewhere near their stores. And they figured out how to get you and how to push messages to you in such a way that they will know that this particular iPhone is on a better deal or these accessories are on a better deal. So the mobile is playing much more of a larger game than just the payment aspect of it. Now, to answer this gentleman's question, your question is so valid because that is the phobia several of the large retailers in the Middle East go through, cannibalization. Okay, so that exists as we speak. But however, it becomes a bigger problem for them primarily from the pricing standpoint. You know, do you maintain price parity between your online store and your offline store? If you maintain that, and if that is a business rule for you, then you are not going to be competitive in your online store against your other e-tailers who are competing with the same product. So in the interest of not cannibalizing your business, you go on with the business as usual, saying, I'm just present, but I'm not necessarily competing with the e-tailers. But now, as the market matures, people have figured out there are the other ways to address this cannibalization issue. For example, bundling has become a big deal. Or the online retailers have started pushing coupons and other promotions to drive the foot traffic to the offline store. And the offline retailers have started dispensing coupons to drive traffic back to the online stores. So there are ways by which people are starting to figure out innovative processes to make this seamless across the board rather than getting too worried about cannibalization. But if they're too paranoid about cannibalization, there is no future. Unfortunately, they have to figure and adapt the processes. That's the way of life.
Thank you, and I think we should, I think afternoon tea is being served, I think, so it's probably a good time to have a break. So thank you, gentlemen. It was very insightful and absolutely enjoyed it. Learned a lot of new things here, so thank you very much.